Does everybody think so?
No, I actually like it. I just have to move on to my next level of career. So I'm doing project management now for Southern California.
All right, yeah. So thanks y'all for coming. Those of you who don't know, JR and Susan were going to be on the panel, and then Susan had her baby, so Susan were very gracious to step up like literally an hour ago. So yeah, but I think everybody here has like more life experience than us in terms of just with dealing with relationships and understanding just like how God works in that. And so I know a lot of us have had questions or like have been thinking about that as college and young adult aged people. And so we're here to learn. That's the heart behind this sort of thing. Yeah, if you guys can be thinking of questions that you guys maybe have, or maybe over the course of our conversation, maybe something will come up. Yeah, just be thinking about that. There will be time at the end for Q&A. I just have a couple basic questions, just general that like should cover like general wisdom for us that would be good to receive. But yeah. So the first question that I have for you guys is like, what's been one of the greatest joys one of being single, and then two of like being married if you're married? You guys can just grab the mic whenever you have an
answer. You started the word single.
No, you don't have to use mic.
I don't think we need it.
Yeah.
Do we need it?
No, we can hear
Okay.
Is it diaphragm?
Check.
Okay.
The joys of being single, I guess, like you youngsters, you get to do whatever you want whenever you want. Yeah, I think the joys of it is no one tells you what to do and when to do. You just make a decision, you just try to enjoy life. And also you can pretty much talk to anyone and don't have to, you just build relationships, but not in a different way, not in a weird way, just basically trying to know the person who they can.
Sorry, before you finish, the second part of that question is like, what is one of the greatest challenges?
Yes, so,
yeah, single or married.
right, so the greatest challenge is you get to pick on a lot, especially as you grow older. And some of your friends who ended up getting married and have kids, they don't start asking like, when are you getting married? Why are you not getting into a relationship? So, and some of them will tell you, oh, you're still getting probably immature. But the challenge is, just because you're a single person doesn't mean you don't have the same responsibilities as the married people. So all of us, I think, just go through each of our phases in life, and I think the biggest challenge there is you feel like you have to carry all the burdens by yourself, and you don't feel like you have someone to be there for you all the time. The challenge is also finding a real good set of friends that will be there to boost your morale, your confidence, and be there for you when you're going through something. So a lot of challenges because you only have probably very limited network of people, and you just have to keep finding that good relationships that will
I would agree that the greatest joy of being single is freedom. But freedom in a way that you're just kind of you if you want to go move 2,000 miles across the country, you can. You don't have to necessarily consider. I mean, you want to consider your parents or all those kind of things, but ultimately you get to make the decision, and you make the decision. But I think in terms of being married, I think one of the, to me, it's both a joy and a challenge, is the fact that you do have this other person to depend on. And so when the bottom kind of falls out a little bit, you kind of have this, you're somebody's favorite, and you're that person, and that person is kind of your safety net. And so I think what's been difficult, what's been the challenge of that, what's been the joy of that is that the challenge of that is that you realize that you're not independent. And for me, I think that God has spoken to me predominantly through my marriage and saying that, you think that independence thing really is a deal. You were never independent. You thought you were. Because there are a lot of times when you are not independent and you have to depend not only on your spouse. I think I depend a lot on Paul, but I think you realize how dependent you are on the people around you and how dependent you are on God and how much you can't live life by yourself. And I think that's true in a different way for single people. But I think for me personally, I don't know if I could have realized that without being married. That's how God built me. I don't think that's necessarily how God builds everybody. But I think part of the reason he told me to get married and told me to get married to Paul, because I was not planning on getting married. It's true. Very true. To anyone. It's very independent. Was because he knew that I needed to know that I couldn't do it by myself. So it's been the greatest joy and the greatest struggle.
Yeah. Similar to what Erin said, when you're single, you can make a decision, a dramatic decision, and alter the way you're going to live your life for however long you choose to live it. You can go and be a missionary wherever in the world. Just as an example, right now, apart from my extended family, there are 2 immediate family members who that decision would affect dramatically. So it's not something that you can make by yourself. It's a collective decision. So it's kind of, I remember one pastor said once that, being single is, hey, you don't have to answer to anybody, and that's great. The bad part of that is you don't have to answer to anybody. But as far as marriage, I think it's building a life with someone and with a family and getting to know them in a deeper way is a very big blessing. It's not always easy to describe. It's just something that it's just building a long-term relationship with someone. It's figuring out about them, and it's figuring out a lot about yourself too. There are a lot of things that I would not have known about myself without being married. And as far as challenge of being married, it's kind of similar in that you are no longer every decision that you make affects your family, affects the people with you. So in that way, you're not as independent as you were, and not really independent at all.
I don't think I've ever been single. The best thing about being married is just the fact that you have someone to share your life with. And you don't feel like you're so alone. You get married and you kind of grow up together. But then the bad part, the challenge is that you really have to adapt to each other. And that's just not when you first get married. That is a lifelong thing. Because as you grow and change, your partner does also. Sometimes you don't move the same directions. So just adapting is important.
Yeah, I'm with Ann. I have no idea when I started. I was 20 years old when I was married.
Wow.
Yeah, I have no idea. So I'll pass on that one. So what is it? challenge of being married, the greatest joys of being married. Well, the greatest joys is you have a partner. You know, my best friend is my wife. One I can talk and confident. I mean, we're together. But challenge, a little bit of story to that. You know, there's an old man, a righteous man, that God really chose. I mean, your years are old and you're righteous. I want to reward you. Is there a wish that I can give you? And he says, I'm old. Why? I want to go to Hawaii. God, we can build a bridge from here to California so I can drive to Hawaii. It's quiet. God says, are you kidding? You understand the engineering feat and it would take? How do you anchor a bridge in 5 miles of water? Try something else. The man says, I would really like to be able to understand women. And God, after a moment of silence, said, it's about that bridge, 2 lanes or 4. So get serious. I mean, marriage was designed by God, right. It's not a human invention. It's God invention. And what does God use? Who gets married? Imperfect people. And by imperfect people, we all have our foibilities, we all have our issues. And when you're together now with that person, it's not the dating, you can go home, be single for a while. I'm not sure how that worked or not, but you're now together, you're joined, you're living together. And sometimes there is issues, and sometimes it's great and it's wonderful, and it's good and bad. It's good news and bad news. There's sickness, there's illness, there's sorrow, there's joy, and it's putting it all together and trying as an imperfect human to live up to the standards of marriage by God. Now, it's all written in the Bible how to do it, but
you wouldn't have necessarily originally thought of. And then for Roumwell, what's something that you feel like you have a unique perspective? That's what does it, when you look at your friends who are married, what's something that you think is important relationship consistency outside of, I guess, your perspective.
I know for me, what was really important, because I was not planning on getting married, was that Paul was somebody that I would trust to make any decision for me, which was very odd for me because I am crazy feminist woman's liver. And so I was not, you read those Ephesians statements where there's the woman submits to her husband, and we won't even get to that, but
yeah, right.
so all of these different types of things, and I went to all of these, purity camps and everything. But so I just was I was very convinced that I wasn't meant to be married because that's not how God made me. I was very headstrong, and I didn't know that God would have created somebody who I would be able to trust to be able to make the decisions, to make some decisions for me. And I think that was something that I appreciated about Paul, is that I trusted him. Not that Paul makes all my decisions for me. I don't think that when in our marriage, submission looks quite the same as what it has been laid out in some Christian texts. But the big thing is that Paul earned my trust very early in our relationship in a lot of different fields. And I think that, I remember I was in labor, and I'd been in labor for 24 hours, and I was freaking out because we were at this point where my drugs were wearing off, and I either needed to go in and do it, or I needed to take some more drugs and sleep, and I didn't know what to do. Paul, being the wonderful man that he is, did not talk during my entire labor because he knew he was too smart for that. And so I looked at Paul, and I was in total and complete panic, and I looked at Paul and I said, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? And he goes, you're going to take the drugs, you're going to take a nap, and then you're going to wake up and you're going to cowboy up and you're going to do this thing. I was like, okay. And the complete and total, and that's just one example. But if Paul had to make, I know that if I'm in complete and total panic terror mode, and if I needed to trust Paul to make the decision for me, that he would make the decision, and I would know that it would be the right one. Which I don't know that I trust anybody on the planet to make those decisions for me. That is totally a God thing. That is not a me thing at all. Not to say, I mean, Paul can get into the idea of, I don't think there's like one true soulmate for everybody, but that's how I knew that I was supposed to be with him, was because God was like, you trust this person to be that partner. And so if you need to have that done, that's what I appreciate most about it, that I would trust him with those decisions.
And this is a conundrum of marriage that takes me a long time to learn, because men fix things. Women talk about things. And it took me a long time to figure it out, a long painful time to realize when my wife wants to talk to me, she just wants to talk to me. She wants me to listen. She doesn't want me saying, okay, got it, this is what you got to do, all right? You do this, and you do this, and do this, problem solved. Okay, let's score the game. And it doesn't work that way, you know? Sometimes they just want you to listen. They want to know you're there and you are listening. That's the conundrum of marriage and relationships.
What's the question?
Like, from your perspective, like, what do you think makes them successful?
I think in any relationship, whether you're building relationships with another person as a friend or to become your partner in life, I think there are a couple of things that I always try to hold on to. And one thing is accountability with each other, being vulnerable, and I like co-depending on each other. It's always a two-way street. It could never be a one-way street because it will never work out. And to me, as long as you have those trust, respect, and integrity, being honest with each other, sometimes being brutally honest, and you just have to know that you have to understand each other and accept that person for who he is, who she is. I think that makes any relationship. And of course, you gotta really pray for that relationship, and hopefully both of you are equally yoked, because being unequally yoked already has its own challenges. Being non-Christian and Christian, it's really hard to work out. I've seen some of my friends' marriage fail just because of one basic foundation is not there, and it's God's. And I've seen their marriage fell apart because of that basic foundation is not there, and the most important is.
I think it's important to have shared values so that you know you're on the right track with the person. You can't have, you can't be one way and have your partner be another way, because there's too many important things that go on in life, like how are you going to raise your kids? Well, maybe one wants to do it one way and wants to do it another. So you really have to be on the same page with each other. So to me, that's really important. And also, one other thing that's important is having a sense of humor, because that's kind of what gets you going, and it takes some of the rough times and makes them a little bit easier to live with.
It's the big things, the important things, and Ann is right, to be on the same page. I mean, to be honest, man, I really care what color the bathroom gets painted. No, I mean, you don't have to be on the same page on the little things, It's sets on the that's fine. I mean, that's what she likes. That's what she likes. I mean, that's important to her. But when it comes to the big things, she's absolutely right. Be on the same page.
Yeah, I mean, not to sound like a broken record, but I think trust is a very key issue. If you don't trust the other person that you're with, then you won't be able to. You don't feel open enough. You don't feel vulnerable enough to be able to share things that you wouldn't feel comfortable sharing with somebody else. shared value is another key thing. Like and that's not to say that Erin and I knew all the answers, like going into the marriage. Like we didn't even, some of the questions we didn't even know how to ask, right? Like, bigger questions. Are we gonna have kids? How many kids are we gonna have? And on and on and on. And I'm sure there's other questions that we haven't thought of yet that we might not be on the same page on. But
All right, last question. I know you guys are anxious to ask your questions, but last question. So, if you guys remember when you were like a college and adult-aged person, like some of us are single, some of us are dating, some of us are engaged, some of us are like wondering if really, some of us really want to be in a relationship, some of us are burnt out from like past relationships, or like not really sure if we're ever going to be in a relationship. We're in like a lot of different places. So like, what advice would you give to like a young person who is thinking about these things?
I would say to have a good, healthy relationship with the Lord, and that should be front. And then to pray every day for God's will to be done in your life, and that and pray for your spouse. Pray for that person that God has out there for you to marry someday. Be diligent about it, and then be patient and just wait on
be patient. You don't have to rush it. You really don't. Like, everybody's different. You're going to be called to do different things regardless of where you are in your life. But I would say I didn't know who I was in college age, right? Like, it's hard enough to get to know yourself, much less trying to get to know somebody else, or what things compliment you. So, and I know that like where you are right now, believe me, I understand. I would not want to hear that. Okay, yeah.
I would say be open to what God's plan would be, because I definitely did not want to get married because I didn't want to be trapped. But I had my idea of what I wanted and what I ended up getting were so different. So our verse for our wedding was God is able to give you infinitely more than you could ever ask or even imagine. And because I had what I called the Ken doll qualities. Paul is not the Ken doll.
How dare you?
Sorry. The Ken doll qualities. And so I had, not that I had like this checklist that all these guys had to like, I didn't really date a whole lot, but I had all these things in my mind as to if I were to build a perfect person, this is what this perfect person would be. And then God said, yeah, that's funny. This is actually who you want. I didn't know that Paul was possible. In addition to that, I think being open to the idea of that God can heal what your misconceptions are about relationships, and also your misconceptions about intimacy and sex and all those different types of things. I think there was a lot of healing that went on in the relationship that Paul and I had while we were dating, and also as we moved into our marriage, that there's a lot of healing. There are some really great books about healing if you were raised in a, purity culture or any of those types of things that are very helpful for that. Group, and then when you're an adult, that's a much different conversation. You're all alone in a room, or you have an apartment, or all these different types of things. And I think for reevaluating that as an adult, especially while you're single or while you're in a relationship, and being very open with that with your boyfriend or girlfriend or engaged person is very important. And to be very open with making sure that your physical intimacy and your spiritual intimacy and your emotional intimacy and your relational intimacy are in line. Because that's where I think what happens and why we get so confused is that some things go up in front of the other, and that's where things get hard. If you want to talk about that more deeply, I'm happy to talk to you about that more deeply. But I think that was really important because I think that we get a lot of mixed messages both from church and from outside of church. And I think God can redeem a lot of those things as you move further into those relationships.
What I would advise you guys is always ask God to reveal His purpose in your life. I know it's hard, and going back to what they were saying, be patient. I think you really need to be patient to what the Lord is going to give you one day. And it could take forever, it could take several years, and being young, you want to do a lot of things, but you really got to pray for what God wants you to have in your life. Be it a person, and you also got to ask God, how can I know myself better? Because that's one thing that I thought I knew myself, and then when I got hit with a lot of challenges, be it at my work or building relationships at work or outside work, I realized I'm like, I have a lot of things to improve with myself. And and then I have to really train my mindset to change to be a better person, so that I would not come across differently or wrongly with people that I didn't realize are looking at me and observing. Because sometimes some people at work will call me out, hey, you did this, and I'm like, I was just being myself, and but being single has perks, like I said, try to enjoy it, in a godly way, of course, and really just ask the Lord to show you when you're gonna get into a relationship. Really pray for that person that He's gonna bring into your life, and pray that it will work out. That will be the person that will be there for you. I'm thankful that I have a lot of friends and extended family here at church, and to me, this actually keeps me steady. Otherwise, if I'm not situated in a church like this, I probably would have gone my way and do all the things that I want to do and not care about everybody else or anything. And just be patient, be prayerful, and try to know yourself and ask God to reveal that to you.
I go way back when we were married at the times, and I see you all here and now. You have some real advantages and some disadvantages. And we were married in 71. We both became Christians, surrendered to the Lord in 1983, 82. I meant we weren't Christians when we were married, and that's a lot different. God designed marriage. That means God designed for His people to be married. His people are Christians. And that's the advantage you have. You would be going into marriage having a solid foundation in Him and be equally yoked through Him, be equally yoked together. I mean, that's the solid foundation. Annie and I lacked that. A lot of painful learning. And I never really learned how to love my wife until I learned how to love God first. And that took a long, long time. Disadvantages that I see you guys really wrestling with is this culture that we live in now. You gotta go back to the 60s and 70s, there's nothing like this today. And the pressure is upon you to conform into this culture. It's a terrible thing. Be strong, stand with it, be strong in the Lord. The key to a relationship is through Him, God alone, through Jesus. That's all I'm here to say.
Good stuff. Thank you, everyone. All right, now we can open it up for questions. Do you guys have any questions? Feel free to ask.
Should the Lakers traded Clarkson?
I think it was good.
Can I add something to what you're saying? Just from you, I don't know what you said that just kind of sparks like something that wrong was saying. Like, oh, that's what it was. What Bob was saying, you, and I think Annie mentioned, is understanding, before you go in a relationship, understand what marriage is. Because you're dating because you're marrying someone. So it's very important to understand why you married. Because that'll help you figure out who you should be dating. Because just because you have fun, you have fun with someone and stuff like that, and you guys see so many things similar, does not mean that that's the person you should marry, you know? And I think for me, it's like through my relationships, I learned, like, I guess the other part of that is what Ron was saying is like God's timing. It's His timing, not yours. Because I think in this like environment stuff, we are like much rushed to be in a relationship. It's like, especially for girls, it's like, oh, you gotta get married like young, then have your kids young. You have that like plan, and you want to follow that plan, and you have to understand that's your plan, not like God's plan. And in that sense, yeah, like I think I've been fortunate, like my past relationships, because I've seen like, yes, like I love them, I enjoy my time, but I didn't see that it was people, I didn't see myself like marrying them, you know? So I'm still able to be friends with them, so it's, and in that sense, I guess like kind of, I've helped them in the relationship and helped me in mine. But yeah, definitely understand what marriage is, because a lot of us go into dating thinking like, what is this person going to do for me? Like, what am I going to get out of them? But marriage isn't. It's what you're willing to do for that person. And if you're not willing to do it for that person, that's not the person you're going to marry. Like, with all the annoying things that they do, you still choose like, oh, I'm doing it, you know? And when there's like, they feel like they're, I don't want to say changes, but like, I think in some ways you want to change for that person, and that's that whole uninterrupted environment. Like, yeah.
You said children, what we're willing to give up to getting the girl, you feel like you want to go further in a marriage, this is teaching yourself or other persons.
Okay.
What were you
I don't
willing
think
to give up for
that's-
yourself or?
Yeah, thank you, Gail and Luke. I appreciate you guys. It's really good. I think like having a concept of what marriage is really important before you get married, right?
Or even dating,
Yeah,
because
definitely.
you're just going to waste your time.
Yeah, questions, Karen.
I'm just wondering, because like as a young person, like, and I haven't like experienced as many things, like, and I feel like I should, at least as a girl, like have a game plan for like how I like play out my life. So I was just like wondering, do you think it's okay to date for fun? Because like I obviously know that dating leads to marriage, but I don't know if like I've heard a lot of people say that for girls like to be patient and like wait for the right man to come to you. But I was just wondering about the like aspect of like seeking out your own man or dating a bunch of people to like.
How do you define dating?
Like seeking romantic relationships with someone.
Can I ask you something? How old are you?
17.
I mean, dating, there's nothing wrong with dating. It depends what goes on during the dating. But how do you meet people and get to know people unless you spend some time with them? I don't think you should be looking to date, anybody and is this going to be your future husband? And companionship, doing things together. You never know. I mean, I don't want to use the word, take the car on a spin. That's not what I'm thinking here. It depends your heart going into this, what you're looking for.
I mean, like, you're not like asking every single guy out on the street, like.
So let
Girls are asking guys out?
Let,
What's this
let,
got to do with
let me speak to this a little bit. So Paul asked me out on a casual date, right?
We had no expectations
No,
at all
no.
of marriage or that was, and if that had been brought up,
It would have been weird.
it would have been bad.
Here's the deal. So here's where you get it. Like at 17, you're probably not going to get to this level, but you could. Who knows?
Yeah.
Right? So here's the deal. How I chose to kind of keep it in the safe zone, right? Not that I was shopping for husbands at 17, but how I kind of kept it in the safe zone is that I kind of sort of dated. I didn't date a whole lot because dating wasn't really my thing, but how I kept it in the safe zone is I dated people who would, if for some reason, 3 years down the road or 5 years down the road or whatever down the road, I decided to marry them, they would be in a marriageable category, right? So like I dated within people who, like when I went to college, I hung mostly out with Campus Crusade guys, and I picked Campus Crusade, not lying, because it had the tallest and cutest men in it. Not lying.
This is all true.
It's all true, because I went to all the different campus groups and all that kind of stuff, and I was like, this is probably going to be my dating pool. It didn't end up being my dating pool, but it was probably going to be my dating pool, and I was like, well, I know that these guys probably have, because for me, I knew I wanted to date a Christian guy, and I knew I wanted to date a guy who had the same, to be frank, sexual boundaries as me. Because I didn't want to get into a situation where I wasn't going to be comfortable. So I didn't go and date in frat parties, and I didn't go and date the football players when I was in high school, because I knew that's the thing. And so when Paul asked me out, I wasn't necessarily looking at Paul as like, oh, we're courting now. You know, like, Paul asked me out, we were in a Christian group together. Paul asked me out, we had talked a
She
little bit
wasn't
about...
interested in me.
I wasn't interested.
No, she wasn't. She
All
was
I
like,
thought
my
was,
cousin.
I wasn't. His cousin literally rejected me, and I was like, and Paul goes, hey, you want to go get coffee? And I'm like, what's the worst that could happen? we met at the place, we had a really good date, and it was like, that's what it was. So it was a casual date when it started. And you know, within 2 months, we kind of were sort of like, this is really creepy because we kind of think we want to get married. Now we were 24 and 26, or 23 and 25 at the time. So this is much different than 17. But the thing is that it was a casual date that turned into something more. Even though both of us were in the casual dating sphere. We were not in a, like, we're on the hunt. Like, neither of us were on the hunt.
I didn't even know what I was on the hunt for. That's the thing.
Paul
You don't know.
just knew he didn't want to be
Oh, I
friend
got
zoned.
tied, rope, and saddle.
That's right.
It would hit me.
Right. You know, so he just didn't want to be friend zoned because I had asked him to sit next to me, and he's like, well, that sounds like something, could be something. Let's go on a date first, and then I'll get friend zoned after. Right? That's essentially the difference.
It was, yes.
You don't want to stand on the
Right?
corner of the sign, we'll work for dates.
Yeah, right.
So that's the thing. Now, because the reason why is that I had a lot of friends who dated casually, and they dated casually with guys who were not in that area that they felt comfortable with, and then they got into zones that they felt uncomfortable, so that they didn't have that same shared values, or at least that baseline value. So then they got into situations they were uncomfortable with. Like I dated a guy in high school that I got into a situation that I was uncomfortable with. Not to say that it was my fault, it was his fault, not my fault, but you know, got into a situation that I was uncomfortable with. And you know, so it was just a boundary that I set up later in my life after having made a couple of those types of things. It's not to say that every guy you have to date, like I didn't end up dating a whole lot of guys in Campus Crusade because they weren't my guy. And I didn't end up dating a whole lot of guys in high school, even though I was in a group of guys in my high school youth group, because they really weren't my type of guy. But, you know, I don't think going on a casual date to go to Froyo or something like that is a bad thing. You just have to know what your boundaries are before you get there.
Good question, Karen. Any other questions?
Does that answer your question? Sort of?
Yeah. That like yeah.
And I asked people out. And some of them said no.
What?
How did you ask people out?
Yes, people.
What was your technique?
Well, I only have to remember, like, I dated like 5 people total in like my whole life, maybe 4. So the one guy I asked out, he had been a friend of mine for a long time, and so I asked him out to breakfast just as a friend, and while we were at breakfast, I asked him out. He said, let me think about it. And it was actually very empowering, because it was like, oh, now he's the one who has to freak out about the fact that I asked him out. And he eventually said no. He said, you know, it's not my, like, you know, I really like being friends and whatever, and it was like, okay, no big deal. You know, and it wasn't weird or anything, because it was like, I think I'd like to see where this goes. And he's like, I don't think I do. And I'm like, okay, we're friends still. No big deal. This was college. In high school, I was not well liked. So, women's liver in high school, not real well liked.
Anyone else? Any other questions?
Whatever. It's open books here. Go ahead.
Yes.
Oh, chatty Cathy.
Just like out of curiosity, how do you reject people that you don't want? Like,
Road Jack, don't come back.
Just say Uncle Bob to me.
yeah, like,
Is someone you know of or is someone you don't know of?
yeah, just like when like someone that like tries to pursue you, but you don't want them to.
I mean, there are
Laws against stalking.
What was that?
There are laws against stalking.
Is it somebody that you know?
Yeah.
Is it hard to say no?
Like you
It's
don't
not
want to
that,
be
is it?
mean.
Yeah.
You also don't want to
I
like
think-
encourage
Yeah.
them.
But you gotta be honest, because the thing
Yeah.
is, if you try to be nice and kind of,
Right.
and it's not clear,
Yeah.
then they're like, oh, maybe she's still thinking about it.
I think you just have to say no.
Like it's-
Yeah,
I think you just have to say no and be honest.
Yeah, just
You know,
be blunt.
but your goal is to not burn the bridge, if you will. If you still want that person to be your friend, just say.
It's like, is this like a creepy thing or like a?
That's,
Yeah.
Like that's kind of a joke,
Yeah.
but that's real.
Is
Like,
it creepy or the one and done, right?
It's not creepy, but it's not friend. It's just like when like some random dude that you know like goes like out of his way to get you like alone.
Oh.
That's my goal.
What? Yeah, that's a little creepy. That's a little creepy. It's in like the creepy folder.
And like try to get his friends to like.
Yeah, that sounds weird.
How about some really experienced old man advice here? Sometimes parents have good advice on these things, they really do, and they can give some good information. Now, if my daughter actually listened to us, maybe she wouldn't have gotten the issues she has. But sometimes it's easy to sit down and just talk to your parents. I mean, it's always a good extra advice to listen to, because they've been there before.
If he's trying to get you alone and that makes you feel uncomfortable, like if you're getting a spidey sense kind of a thing.
Spidey sense?
Are you getting a spidey sense kind of a thing?
Yeah.
No, it's just like. No, I don't feel like I'm threatened in any way.
Huh?
I don't feel threatened in any way.
Okay. I think you can be honest, or if you know of his friends, or like you can either be honest, or you can be honest to his face, or you can also be honest to his friends. Because sometimes they won't take it, like, so for example, there was a guy in college who kept wanting to ask me, like he wanted to ask me out after we had gone on it's like a fraternity date, and so everybody had to go and get a date at the last second, right? So we had gone on this fraternity date. And I was not into him, but I was pretty sure he was into me, and so I told all of his friends I was not into him, so that he didn't have to be rejected by me directly, but his friends could say, yeah, she's not into you. That was more of a kind of a friend situation, but that was kind of so we could be, but I knew that if it came down to it and he asked me out again, I would have to say, I'm not into that. that was more of a friend type situation, not a random person kind of a situation. And if he's trying to get you alone, you know, like if he's trying to get you alone, I would not be alone.
Warning, Will Rogers, warning.
Yeah.
If you're trying to avoid hurt feelings, like on his part, that is going to become less and less of a problem if he's not taking the hint.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's okay to hurt feelings.
In that situation, yeah.
That's not a friend you want. Next.
When does the feeling of love disappear?
It's like 5 years-ish.
You mean when you're getting the
Define,
or just
I want you to define that, Hugo.
I don't know.
You mean that warm?
I've never felt love, so I don't
Is that a
understand.
question?
I want to know when I get it, how long do I have it before it disappears?
Love is not a feeling.
I mean, it's the initial feeling because I can't sleep at night because I'm thinking of her all night and I hope she, you know, this is the one, you know, that and this, yeah. I mean, that goes away pretty soon.
And you're totally insane part.
Yeah, I mean, it changes. That's the thing.
That's exactly it.
What you're feeling exactly will change over time. That's just the way it works. That doesn't mean you're less in love than you were before.
If the feeling isn't that important, doesn't that mean that you should date somebody on paper that's going to be good for you for, let's say, ministry or to love God?
I think God calls you in different ways.
Date someone just to love God? Is that what I
Well, see, because the thing is, like, I'm saying, like, when does the feeling fade or whatever, and you guys are kind of like, well, what's the feeling? What's that? What is? It changes. It's.
I think for me, I kept talking to God over and over and over again because I had this. On the one hand, God was saying, "You cannot be the person you were called to be without being with Paul." So he was very clear, like, you cannot be the person you were supposed to be without Paul. On the other hand, I was crazy, stupid in love with Paul. Like, stupid, ridiculous, stupid in love with Paul. Just dumb. Like, my boss was just gay. Like, so stupid in love with Paul. And so I was hyper high. When we got engaged, I was hyper high anxiety. I lost like 30 pounds in like 5 months just from like not eating because I was totally psycho. High anxiety. Not about getting married, about my mom was a crazy person. But so I'd go on a walk every day at lunch, and I would tell God, I was like, God, if you don't want me to do this, you need to stop this right now. Like, you need to stop this right now, because I was so in love with him, and I thought it was just like so selfish to be so in love with him. And I was like, God, if you don't want me to do this, because my emotions are completely and totally controlling me at this point, like, I need you to stop it, because this is a runaway train, and I am powerless to stop this at this point. And at one point, he like literally stopped me in my tracks, and he's like, "Will you just shut up and marry the guy?" Like, he's just like, "Just shut up. Quit asking me. Just shut up and do it. Because you know he's the right one. You're crazy in love with him. Just accept my gift and just do it." And I'm like, God is very blunt with me. He's not a particularly warm and fuzzy person with me. And so, like, I don't think that they're mutually exclusive.